Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kiali community meeting. This is for version 1.86. And let's jump right into it. So some of the things that we worked on this sprint we're going to be talking about, and you'll see a demo of some of those things as well. The first thing that we worked on this sprint was Ambient. Justina, do you want to talk more about that?
Sure, thanks, Nick. So in this sprint, we have been doing some ambient improvements. It's important to mention that this work is evolving as the same way as Istio, and really a little bit behind because we need to wait for the Istio release to be out and be tested, and also for some features to be kind of stable. And one of the important things that we have been working on top of Istio 1.22 is improve the support for the waypoint proxies and how we look this telemetry. So to put you a little bit more into context, now in Ambient, instead of just having the sidecars, we have like two components. One is the cTunnel, the other is the waypoint. And if we want to add our workload to our ambient mesh, we just need the cTunnel or the L4, the layer 4 component. But if we need some layer 7 processing, kind of the same features like the Envoy proxy, we will need to have one of the waypoint proxies. So in Istio 1.22, it changed the way this component is like reporting the telemetry. And one of the things that you can be seeing in this version is the HTTP graph traffic that's coming from a waypoint, and also the metrics charts. Another thing that we have been working is how to show these waypoints in our graph, but this is still a work in progress. And another thing was to hide the injection options when we are in an ambient namespace, because it really doesn't have a lot of sense. So I'm going to show this in a demo. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we have our Kiali instance with a simple mesh with just a namespace. We can see this is an ambient namespace. We can't, because we see our control playing in our ambient batch. And we have a namespace that is book info that was added to our ambient using the label data play mode equals ambient. And we can see here with this label. And this, for example, this information and metrics that we have here, it's possible to see them because we have a waypoint proxy deployed in our book info namespace, and also because we have done these changes regarding how to see the telemetry reported by waypoint. Another of the things that I've been talking about is that here we are no longer seeing our enable or include injection enable auto injection in our namespace, because this is an ambient namespace and is already included in our mesh. And for example, here, this namespace doesn't have any ambient label, so we can, if we want, enable auto injection from this simple button without having to know the specific commands for that. And let's see what do we have in our workloads list for this namespace. We see we have different workloads, and we have one that is the waypoint proxy workload. This is a special workload that you can see in the details that is identified as a waypoint proxy. And this waypoint was added into deployed as in the namespace level to have all of our workloads included through waypoint. And this is something that you can see here in the labels, because we have been using this use waypoint equals the name of the waypoint, that in this case is waypoint, because it's the name that is used automatically when we use or we deploy a waypoint proxy through the Istio cattle. So now we are going to see the graph for this namespace. And there is a little bit different that we used to see, because now we have like two different edges. One, we have, for one side, we have these blue edges that are the TCP metrics that are reported from the cTunnel proxies. And for the other side, that we can see now how we have like these green edges that are the metrics that are reported from our waypoint proxy. So in this case, we have more information as the graph, the usual graph that we used to see. If we want, we, for example, can hide the TCP traffic, and we are going to see some more simple view. And if we click in on one of the edges, we can also see the HTTP metrics that are reported from our waypoint proxies. Let's show the TCP traffic again. And here in the display options, we have this waypoint proxies option. This is, we have a warning here because this is a feature under development, but we can just click here and we see in our graph that we have one waypoint proxy as part of our namespace. But yes, this is still a work in progress because it has still some missing information, and we are trying to figure out how the best way to visualize this, and that this is the reason why it's a work in progress feature. And for just ending this demo, we are going to see how we can see the metrics. This is one of the workloads, and with a waypoint proxy, and it's going to be possible to see all this information because we have done like a change. And for the waypoint proxy, this information is not really reported from the destination of the origin. It's reported really for waypoint because the difference we used to have with the sidecars is like we just have one waypoint, so it doesn't really make sense to create telemetry that is related to the destination of the source. So in this case, we just have one reported that is just going to be the waypoint proxy. And for the next sprint, we are going to continue working on improvements to visualize the waypoint components. And well, this feedback is always welcome. So I'm going to stop sharing, Nick.
Thanks, Josune. It's great to see the ambient support continue to evolve. Let me share the slides again. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right. Next on to the mesh page. Jay, I saw you joined. Did you want to talk about this?
Again, very briefly, it's exactly what it says. We added a legend to the left side for the mesh page just to give guidance to what you're looking at. And in the second thing, so one improvement we did here is in the first release of mesh page last sprint, when we showed configuration for, so in this case, if you selected the Grafana node, you would get in the side panel basically the JSON config, which we were just pretty printing JSON. And now we've updated that to be a nicer table format. We also switched from JSON to the more commonly used YAML format on Kubernetes. And the copy and download buttons are added so that you can quickly copy or download that complete YAML. That comes in the normal YAML file format. It's not going to download in like a HTML table. Going to give you what you would expect. That's also been applied in the debug info from the masthead. That same sort of look and feel change. That's it.
Great. Yeah, and if you haven't played around with the mesh page yet, please do, because there's some good information there. Okay, so another thing that we're working on is auto-detecting more Istio configuration. There's a lot of fields that you have to manually specify, and especially if you're using revisions. And Kiali can already auto-detect a lot of this. So the goal here is to make it so that you don't have to manually specify these things. So if you're doing a canary rollout or anything, you wouldn't have to update your Kiali configuration. You could just keep everything the same. So that's a work in progress. We'll update fields gradually. We'll eventually deprecate these fields so that if you manually specify them, we'll honor that for a while. And then once everything is stable, then we'll probably remove support for that field. And then you'll no longer have to set it. Some other notable changes, we've simplified our I18N support. And we're also looking for contributions for this. So if you want to add support for different languages within Kiali, we'd love for you to contribute that. There's already some support for Chinese, so any contributions there are more than welcome. We added some additional testing for the certificates panel. Whenever you click on show certificates to see the root certificate for Istio. We also added a configurable write timeout. This was an issue if tracing call, for example, I think is where we hit this, where calls to the tracing backend and writing the response back to the browser were taking a long time. So you can now configure your Kiali server's write timeout above the default of 30 seconds. We added, we changed the tag for tracing. So before it was looking for the cluster attribute was something like just like cluster, and Istio actually added cluster attribute to traces. So now Kiali is just using the default one that the Istio added. So that should require less configuration there, especially for multi-cluster setups. We improved the wizards, add some more options for Gateway API. We added automated testing for Ambient. This is part of our ongoing Ambient support. And getting that more stable is having automated testing in CI for Ambient setups. And we've deprecated, we actually removed the deprecated setting. So if you're using the spec.kiali feature flags setting, you should update it to the top level spec.clustering field. Few bug fixes along the way. Again, some CI changes, IPv6 Docker changes that broke our pipelines that we fixed. Some pattern fly bug fixes with parallel edges overlapping, and also a bug fix for Helm whenever you were adding a remote cluster that was inaccessible. There was a bug there, so that got fixed. I think a community user opened that one up. All right, and looking forward to the next sprint. It's a lot of the same things in progress, a lot of the things we talked about. So ambient support, performance improvements, pattern fly for Kiali, that auto detection work that I was mentioning earlier. If you want to see what we're going to be working on next, follow this link down here at the bottom. And if you have feature requests or bug reports, also go to the Kiali repo and open up issues, or you can find us in the Slack channel on Istio Slack and #Kiali. All right, so that's it